Hello and welcome, everybody. I'm Shelley Malott from Cast and Crew Marketing. Thank you for joining us today for the first installment of our webinar series, Creating the Digital Production Office. Let me introduce our two panelists today, Cast and Crew Senior Vice President of Product, Guillaume Aubuchon, and Vice President of Marketing and Strategy, Ivana Malcolm. They will be taking you through the Cast and Crew product vision, reviewing our digital solutions and how they can help you create the new digital production office. Before I hand off to our panelists, some quick housekeeping. If you do have any questions during the presentation, kindly type them into the Q&A box. Guillaume and Ivana will be answering questions after the presentation. We will also be providing a video recording to all who registered, so be sure to look for that link in your email. Without further ado, Guillaume and Ivana.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today in our conversation around creating the digital production office. We're very excited to to show you today our suite. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to my partner in crime, Guillaume Aubuchon.
Thank you very much, and glad to be here, everybody, and talk to you about how we're working through the new digital age and the new digital era as a result of COVID. Happy to be here and talk to you about our products. So just to get off and going here, we know that the entertainment production process is complex, it requires urgency and requires flexibility. And even as we evolve into a new era that demands contactless and all the other items that are going to come in as part of digitization and going paperless, we realize that we have to acknowledge and adapt our products and our methods in order to make sure that they still fit within this very unique vertical, this very unique space that we call entertainment production. They have to work in that space. But over the past several years, we have been modernizing and we have been leveraging software and obviously developing our own suite of products to tap into digital data and mobile in order to evolve into this paperless process. But COVID-19 is really a game changer and has really accelerated that. And Ivana and I are really going to take you through today what it means to shift into paperless, to shift into remote work. And with that, I hand it back to Ivana Malcolm to take you through some of this.
Thank you, Guillaume. So while, as Guillaume mentioned, while the industry has been on a path with product adoption, COVID-19 has accelerated that journey. COVID changes the landscape of how productions typically work, having both studios and production accounting crews alike rethinking their work habits and processes as safety is of the utmost priority. For example, we have to take into account remote work. For crew who traditionally work in the heart of production, I think about accounting in particular. In the past, you could simply chase down the UPM on set to get an answer on a crew member's rate or to get a TA signed. Working remotely changes that. Collaboration on set will also look different. The number of individuals working on a set will be limited, and crew will need to adhere to social distancing rules and wear personal protective equipment. But perhaps one of the most important changes is that paper is no longer an option, as it simply is not safe. A crew member coming into the production office to grab a bunch of starts, or a PA picking up checks for distribution. This all changes to protect each person in this COVID-19 pandemic. So these are the conditions productions are facing, and studios are challenged with rapidly implementing digital solutions to create a digital production office to keep their crews safe. And so the question becomes, how can they do this in a seamless way with digital tools to help them get there?
And we really feel that it's this contactless and paperless production office. And what's really going to be required here is not only tools, products, and applications, but a truly connected suite of tools. So what we're really aiming for here is to give you the underpinnings within our suite of products that really enable you to go into this new COVID era, to go into some of this restrictive items in this new COVID era, and really achieve not only contactless and paperless, but also the efficiencies that can underlie that. And that really has to do with integration. And what we're going to talk a lot about today is the integration of our products and how that facilitates this new contactless and paperless production process. And we really feel that as Cast and Crew, we've assembled really an industry-leading suite of products. And that is all going into this integration that we call the digital production office. So whether it's accounting or the payroll side or report and collaboration, we have tools that surround this that really enable this whole digital production office lifecycle. And whether it's payroll, so obviously payroll services, and we're going to talk through a little bit of my Cast and Crew start and hours and how that really facilitates a contactless and paperless payroll process. We're also going to talk about the accounting suite. Obviously, a lot of paper driven through purchase orders and cost reports and accounting practices and checks. So we're going to talk a lot about expense management and our suite of accounting products that really facilitates that same paperless process, but for the accounting office. And really, as I said, underpinning all of this is data and reports and sharing and collaboration. And Studio and Final Draft and Reporting Plus all really seek to facilitate that and really become the underpinning foundation of that remote collaboration and that remote work in our suite. And we've built all of these products looking back at our 4 decades of history. So we know how complex the entertainment production process is. We know how complex union interactions, crew interactions, production office interactions are. That's all the experience we've gained over the past 4 decades at Cast and Crew, and that's gone to inform our digital products and the digital processes that we're implementing in a new remote work and remote collaboration environment as a result of COVID.
So thank you, Guillaume. So let's dive into digital now and show everyone here, how does a digital production office work?
Great. So we're going to talk a lot about what I like to call the s'more of progress. The s'more.
What does the s'more mean, Guillaume?
Thank you so much, Ivana, for setting me up.
You got it.
The s'more is you have 2 graham crackers, and those 2 graham crackers hold the cohesion together. And even though that's funny, and it is funny, the reality is it starts with the crew member on one side. It starts with them being able to access these products, to access their documents within the system, and to do that in easy to use way. And the other side we're going to talk about towards the end of this presentation is management, digital storage, management of documents, and so everything you need on the studio production side to really manage the production. But starting with My Cast and Crew, we have a singular portal for those employees to come to. It's a unified place. They have one set of, they have one password and one set of credentials that allows them into all products. It gives them personalized digital storage. It gives them digital and paperless access to their payroll information, whether that be pay stubs and so forth and so on. So we really feel that My Cast and Crew does 2 essential things. It not only drives the paperless experience for production employees and crew, and also users of our applications, but it also reduces the friction and really presents an ease of use experience for that crew, in that they have a single methodology to log into the products, to collaborate, to access their information. And we're going to show you, and I'm going to hand it back to Ivana, to show a little bit more about how My Cast and Crew really establishes that at the beginning as we're initially onboarding that crew member.
For sure. And thank you, Guillaume. I think, why I really love my cast and crew, and we introduced this, last year, was that it really empowers the crew member to manage their own digital profile. And what that means in reality is that in the past, crew members would, fill out a paper start when their address changed and handed that over to accounting to get to cast and crew. Or if they needed direct deposit, they would have to give, a paycheck stub. Again, a lot of paper, a lot of, interaction with individuals. Now, they're empowered to do this digitally before starting production and accessing it during the course of production. But my favorite thing about my cast and crew as well is that is the introduction of My Files. And My Files is where crew members can securely store other documentation that they typically have to provide through the course of production or through their digital onboarding experience. So, just to point it out, box rental inventory, cell phone bills, car insurance information. These are things that you typically attach to your start packet. And now what we do is, instead of bringing that to accounting for accounting to kind of, facilitate, they can store it in My Files, and it will follow them from every single production. And it integrates with Start Plus so that, they can access it during their digital onboarding experience. And this is really, really key. And then, really at the end of the day as well, is that it also gives crew members access to their own digital starts and their time cards. So this really, like I said, it really empowers crew members, but it empowers them to handle their profiles digitally and without the use of paper.
And Start Plus. So Start Plus is obviously the next logical piece in the flow. So once we have that crew member coming into the system via My Cast and Crew, accessing their information via My Cast and Crew, and obviously then them accepting offers and getting onboarded onto their next project is where Start Plus comes in. And Start Plus is a tremendous paperless tool. So there's no more start packets, no more paper start packets, no more shuffling of paper in that production office. Everything is done remotely within the system. It has full e-signature, so we can back everything that's done in the system. From a legal and compliance perspective, people can add notes on top of offers. And then what we're going to touch on too is that integration piece. So as Ivana mentioned, our entire suite of HR and payroll products are integrated into one another, and they're meant to exchange data with one another. So as the crew member comes into My Cast and Crew, establishes their profile, that profile is updated. We're going to show you a bit of that coming up, and Ivana will speak to that. That profile information automatically flows into Start Plus and becomes the basis of their onboarding paperwork without them having to re-enter any information that's coming, for instance, from their individual employee profile. It's also fully integrated with our payroll system as well. So anything that's contract related or rate related automatically gets pulled from our payroll system and presented in Start Plus. And then, of course, once you're done with the entire paper process or the onboarding process, the paperless onboarding process, I should say, in Start Plus, we're going to talk about how all of that information is then integrated into our other applications for further distribution, and of course integrated into our payroll system, so that deal becomes immediately available once the crew member accepts that offer for them to pay against. So once again, I'm going to hand it back to Ivana, talk a little bit more about Start and Studio, and then we'll talk a little bit about how the integration is key between those.
For sure. Thanks, Guillaume. And I think you've really captured it well in terms of, Start Plus is probably one of the most critical products to introduce into the digital production office because it's just so paper heavy. If you think about those paper packets, 20, 30, 40 pages of, policies, procedures, things that they have to sign off on. Digitizing that is crucial. And then to your bigger point about integration, we often talk about, how digital onboarding, those packets have what I always, like to refer to as an afterlife. It just doesn't stop there. So because the distribution of some of the documents within that packet have to go to other individuals, whether it be at the studio or, let's say even the unions. And so we facilitate that further through Studio, which we will talk about very shortly. But again, just to recap too, with Start Plus, it's like the integration with my cast and crew, access to my files for the crew to quickly attach their inventory list and other documentation during that process. And then all of those completed documents to be separated and distributed in Studio into their, designated folders. This is really important stuff. And again, I can't stress enough over and over again, just really facilitating a paperless and contactless digital production office. So we're going to have a little sneak peek into my cast and crew. So this is where, I mentioned that the crew members can go ahead and manage their digital profile. They have access to their basic information as well as their address information. And as I mentioned before, they have the ability to update their address. And again, we encourage them, to do that prior to production, but also they can do it midstream. And because of the integration with payroll, this is automatically updated in our system. You can also put in an emergency contact. I don't know if you see that there, but we have Eric Belcher, our CEO, as an emergency contact. I happen to think that's a good thing.
My emergency contact, Ivana.
I know, I got you. And the other big key too is direct deposit. Not getting a paper check. Having the ability to get paid and to do that directly to your bank, not going to your bank, not having to engage in that way during this really difficult time. And last but certainly not least, having those, paperless check stubs, that too, you don't need that anymore. So we facilitate that as well and always have access to it in the system. And then this is Start Plus. This is a hiring manager's dashboard. Any of the digital starts, this gives you access and information as to where those documents are and where they are in the process of getting approved. Again, visibility is going to be key as everybody is working remotely. So really providing that granular information and detail is really, really important. And as Guillaume mentioned, as far as data, account codes, they start off in Start Plus, they move into payroll, they are exposed in Hours Plus, and then ultimately reside in PSL. This is all about integration and the sharing of information. And then as individuals move through this create offer screen, all the integrations, the automated documents, all of that, within a one screen, one touch, and the offer gets confirmed and sent to the crew member.
Great. And I think I just wanted to touch on a couple of points there. So obviously, driving through a new paperless payroll process has to be end to end. And so we brought you through My Cast and Crew, which enables the crew member to obviously interact paperless. We brought you through Start Plus, which obviously allows them to onboard, accept those offers, and then for the subsequent approvers on the production itself to actually approve that in a paperless workflow. And obviously the final piece of the payroll process is timekeeping. And Hours Plus is really the linchpin when it comes to absolute paperless process. So as we all know, you onboard once, or maybe 2 or 3 times if you're a day player on a show.
True story. Or you have multiple opcodes. You never know, Guillaume. You could be and an electric, okay?
That's correct. There's always edge cases. But obviously we're creating time cards on a weekly basis. So when we really talk about going paperless, needing to go paperless, needing to limit direct interaction within the payroll process, this Hours Plus product is really what becomes key. So we have mobile entry for crew in terms of their time. We have department head entry in terms of time. And the biggest piece from an integration standpoint is this is all fully backed by our payroll system and our hours to grow system. So just like Start Plus is directly interconnected into our payroll system, so is Hours Plus directly interconnected into our payroll system. So any rules, any union contract items that need to be there to calculate time is automatically loaded and updated. And one of the things we've done with Hours Plus is to make sure that we maintain that legacy and that knowledge of the past 40 years that we've really built up, especially from a labor contract and labor relations perspective, to make sure that Hours Plus is calculating those times accurately, even in every sort of side scenario. So fully integrated with the rest of the products, fully integrated from a paperless perspective, just like Start Plus back into Studio Plus, and we'll talk a little bit more about that from a paperless perspective. Enables the mobile entry by employees, enables obviously digital entry, and we're not transacting in paper time cards. And Ivana is going to talk a little bit more about sort of the pain points around time cards and Hours Plus and introduction of that into the market. But as I said, a key linchpin to going paperless in the end-to-end payroll process.
That's exactly right, Guillaume. I think, you know, in the clients that are currently, you know, using Hours Plus and engaging in the product, I think what is absolutely key is that it has that digital approval flow. You know, typically what we see prior to COVID, we see that the payroll accountant handles multiple batches of time cards and are most familiar working one-to-one in an application, facilitating time cards on a weekly basis. And Hours Plus can change that now because obviously we need crew to complete time cards, to enter in their times digitally, whether it be the crew or the department head or department key to do that. And then that automatically goes to the payroll accountant to view that. And then as you mentioned, with automatically our hours to gross system breaking that down based upon the labor contract that's in our system, and then going through that approval flow and then on to payment at cast and crew. So what you can really see is just complete end-to-end digital without having to touch a paper time card. And I think that's key for our clients and our crew out there that are looking to, you know, reemerge into the production office. So what we're going to show you here is another sneak peek, but this is where the payroll accountant view, where they have the ability to view their different batches and to either lock or unlock and move time cards within those batches, giving them a lot of flexibility that they're familiar with when dealing with time cards. And then once they go into the system and they select a particular time card, you're automatically going to see the hours that were input by the employee. And as we add in additional information, you can see how it breaks down the hours immediately and does a time card breakdown. And that's all in seconds. In addition to that, we empower payroll accountants to have the ability to add allowances. Sometimes crew may forget, although, you know, they do like to put in their allowances, but they do, you know, have the ability to do this, and they can add that in, fill in the subsequent important information, and then go ahead and save and calculate. And once again, that happens automatically in our system as they, you know, with the integration with hours to gross. And once that time card is approved, it can either move on to that next approver, or if you don't need additional approval, that can go directly then on to cast and crew for payment.
So I think it's really key to note here as we get into Studio Plus to reiterate sort of all of the integration. And I think one of the key things when you're driving towards paperless and you're driving towards remote work, and particularly something like COVID occurs and really accelerates that change management, accelerates that trajectory into changing the process. One of the things I wanted to point out is, besides integration, and Hours Plus is a great example of this, we've really focused on the personas, meaning the users that we have. We've really focused on you as a community. And something like the payroll accountant screen is a great example in Hours Plus, as we're all racing to go digital, particularly because of COVID. And it is so key that not only do we have products that facilitate paperless and digital processes, but it's so important that those products are easy to use and easy to be trained on, particularly in this scenario of acceleration. So I just want to touch on, not only is Hours Plus integrated into the rest of the suite, we've really done a tremendous amount of work in that application to make sure that you have all the flexibility you need, especially from a payroll account perspective. And yet it's still a system that can be easily understood, easily adopted, and is very straightforward from an end user perspective, as, like I said, we accelerate into digitization and paperless. And speaking of accelerating into paperless, obviously that bottom graham cracker of the s'more, and yes, I'm going back to my s'more analogy, doubling down on it.
Where's the chocolate, Guillaume? Is this the chocolate to the s'more?
That's actually a good point. I hadn't thought.
Thank you. Yes.
The s'more involved. This is a very basic s'more. So obviously as we've talked about, you need that crew engagement, you need the user engagement, and that's the My Cast and Crew piece at the beginning of the process. And then Studio Plus is this fully integrated piece that really facilitates storage of all your documents, your data storage, and importantly, it's integrated directly into the payroll suite. So whether that's start paperwork coming out of Start Plus, that's time cards coming out of Hours Plus, or that's payroll information coming directly from our payroll system, like invoices and edits, those automatically flow into Studio Plus, not only for the purposes of storage, but they flow into Studio Plus with metadata. In other words, they flow into Studio Plus with context. So more than a simple data storage platform, you're able to search based on crew member. You're able to search based on the parameters that are coming out of Start Plus and the paperwork that's feeding into here as a storage solution. Same thing with time cards, and same thing with your payroll invoices as well. So we want to make sure that you have an integrated experience where data is automatically flowing in here in a paperless fashion, being archived, having metadata and context added to that so you can retrieve it later in an easier fashion. And it also facilitates the distribution and collaboration, which is really the cornerstone of a remote working environment where you really need to collaborate quickly, approve items, and be able to see and access items quickly. So I'll turn it back to Ivana to talk a little bit more about Studio Plus and how it really facilitates that sort of remote working process.
Yeah, no, thank you, Guillaume. I have a really a fun story that when we did introduce, when there was a particular client that was utilizing our Start Plus application for digital onboarding, and we had a payroll accountant who, was saying, hey, this is really, really great, but we have, this crew info sheet that we need to extract from these PDFs so that I can hand that over to the production office. And that really sort of lit the light bulb, because it was all about what I had said before, that these packets really have an afterlife, right? These documents that are aggregated into that packet, they get separated and on purpose, and then they have a different purpose in which to fulfill. And so, this integration with Cast and Crew Studio is phenomenal because of the fact that, one, just from the paper aspect, no one is actually having to extract a document from a packet, but then also digitally to facilitate that in such a seamless way, and extracting that one document and putting it into a designated folder so that somebody on that team can access that information. That's really powerful, and that really makes this process much more seamless and much more efficient for production. In addition to that, what's really super great as well is the fact that you can communicate with your Cast and Crew payroll coordinator. There's the payroll edits that we facilitate through Studio. And, it sends notifications when, your edits are in and available and ready to view. Once again, facilitating that communication and ability to run your production efficiently. And then last but not least, the other part is this becomes your digital payroll files. If you think about, the accounting office, they'll typically separate the start information and put it into folders and files and store it. And then they'll take the time card and the paper stubs and aggregate that together in a different file. Studio aggregates that automatically, grabs that information from start, grabs that from hours, and puts it into those folders so you can access it. And then what makes it even easier, if you don't want to kind of drill down into those folders, you just simply search. And you can pull up a person's name like Guillaume and see how many time cards he's actually submitted, or to check up on his paper start.
And if you have a French crew, that's going to be a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. So I can't talk enough about Studio and the work that we've done with that integration, but also too just how much it eliminates not only paper, but the process of which the documents and the time cards, where they need to go next, and having that easy sort of accessibility. That's key, and is going to be really critical for the success of productions. So we're going to jump into Studio. You can see we have the different folders that are designated for start and hours, and we have you can put full packets into a folder. You can extract certain documents. You can just have the start form. You also have the ability to go ahead and do a multi-select. If you wanted to download this information and share it in another manner, you can do that quite easily. The other thing is we can extract I-9s to facilitate e-verify with Cast and Crew. Each one of these, especially if you're working in the state of Georgia, where e-verify is a part of the process, and we can limit who has access to that. And then the other component too is the to and from Cast and Crew folders. Really simple, doesn't need to be complicated. You can, any documentation you need to send to your payroll coordinators, drag and drop right into that folder, and your coordinator will get a notification that document is there for their viewing. And also in the inverse, when there's something that the coordinator, a payroll edit that they're sending, that automatically comes to you with that notification, so on and so forth. And so here we just again just show the ability to share and do multiple workflows within the application.
So the last piece we want to touch on is Reporting Plus, and I want to reiterate something from Studio Plus. So all of remote work, all of being a human being, if I'm to be honest, is about context. And so in the Studio Plus integration, you saw that the files were renamed. That's not being done by an individual. That's actually driven directly out of the integration with our other products. So integration and data provides you context to, for instance, that start paperwork and what that means. And when you have integration and you have data, that provides you context. And that's key in a paperless and digital environment, in a remote work environment, is you would normally rely on being able to talk to somebody or interact with somebody personally to derive that context or fill in meaning. So what we're trying to do is enable the integrations that give you that context even in a remote working and remote collaboration scenario. And the last piece of that is really reporting. We're really excited about Reporting Plus. We're looking at this as an opportunity to not only provide you, just like Studio Plus does, that context and that remote collaboration that you get with assets or documents or storage in Studio Plus, we also want to give you that context and oversight in the data as well. So we've been working very feverishly, and hopefully at some point next year, we'll be putting customers on this product. But this gives you oversight. This is directly connected and integrated into our payroll data and our accounting data. And this enables you to pull custom reports, to export that data via CSV and a couple of other different formats directly out of the system. And this is going to give you, once again, provide you that context when you're doing a show remotely, or to put it in context, in my experience, what it feels like we're entering into is for instance, shows that we're on distant location. So you need that insight, you need that oversight, and Reporting Plus is really a key element in order to derive that, particularly remotely. So hoping to get this out at some point next year. We're really looking forward to this. I think this is going to put a lot of capability in your hands, particularly as a result of digital acceleration as a result of COVID. And then finally, moving into our accounting suite of products. So obviously, you know, it's key and important to facilitate the remote collaboration with crew and approvers on the payroll piece. It's key to facilitate the paperless process in the context of storage and assets and documents with our workflow products. And it's also key to not only digitize the production office, but digitize the accounting office, which is such a key important part of production as well. And we're building a whole suite of tools within PSL Plus to really facilitate that digital accounting office, that paperless accounting office. So PSL Plus is already a tremendously flexible accounting system. I'm sure many of you are already aware of that. Obviously, a lot of real-time capabilities, and we're expanding that out with DPO. So DPO is a very exciting new partnership that we have in conjunction with Sargent Disc in the UK. And DPO enables you to remove all of that paper from the purchase order process, but not only from the purchase order process. It does that with travel authorizations, it does that with invoicing, it does that with deliveries. So it's really giving you the ability to eliminate the majority of paper out of those accounting processes and eliminate all paper out of those processes. It also enables you to work remote. It has full approval workflows. So everybody can approve POs digitally, track POs digitally. So everything is removing paper out of that entire process, whether you're on the mobile or desktop. That's really where DPO comes in. We're going to be bringing that closer into PSL Plus. And then P-card. So once again, just like purchase orders and DPO, we need to eliminate paper out of the purchasing process. Receipts, those are dirty. No one wants to collect receipts. So P-card enables mobile capture of those receipts, instant visibility into expenses and reporting in PSL Plus, approval of transactions or limitations of transactions on those cards. That's all done via the application, the web-based application. So once again, remove the paper, remove the direct interaction. No need, if anybody's still using petty cash, the 1990s called, but really P-card is that next level of purchase card that really gives you that visibility and really enables you to remote work in this new era. And just bringing it back to, that's the entire suite. That's how we're going into this new era of digital production office. And COVID has really accelerated this. It was already a trajectory we were on, but obviously we have to come up with a new way of working. And these products are that new way of working, and digital products are that sort of new era to enable this level of remote collaboration. And I believe that we're evolving, just as this business has done many times before, into a new era with new tools, and it's going to be better for it, both from an efficiency standpoint and obviously remote collaboration standpoint. And I'll just toss it back to Ivana to talk about a little bit about, to finish up and wrap up with us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Guillaume. So, you know, as we all know and have stated, obviously COVID-19 requirements are here now. It's a very real reality that a reality we have to deal with. And our solutions are available now to you so that you can go ahead and run your digital production office now. So one of the things I do want to say is that, you know, we appreciate you guys letting us take you through our full suite of products. I know a lot of you probably want to see some more, you know, of our products in depth. And I just wanted to let you know that we will have additional webinars where we're going to really deep dive into each of these products so that you can, you know, work through the requirements that you have on production. And so with that, I'm going to hand it off to Shelley to kick off our Q&A.
So as Ivana said, we are now open for questions. Just click on the Q&A button in the bottom of your Zoom screen to open the Q&A box and type in your questions. We will answer as many as we can in the time that we have. We see that there are a lot of questions, so please don't hesitate to ask us directly by emailing sales@castingcrew.com.
And we will start from the top and try to answer as many as possible live. So Stephen, thank you very much for attending, first of all. Yes, many of our applications can be used by crew on their phones. They're mobile responsive for the most part, except for a few certain roles. But they can be used on their phones. They can be used on their phones without downloading a separate application onto their phone.
Yep. Thank you, Guillaume. We have another question here. How do you have deal memos signed as this is not a part of the START package? So this was anonymous. So thank you, anonymous. Basically, we have an e-signature solution in our START Plus application. So each of the deal memos, the I-9, all the documents that are in that packet are e-signed during that digital onboarding process.
Great. We have another, there's many questions. So thank you for a phenomenal and vocal community. We really do appreciate it from a Q&A perspective. Is the digital portal set up for cast and extras? So basically the way our portal works is if we've paid you, you can access our portal. So it doesn't matter what job classification you were paid at, as long as we have paid you, you can go ahead and sign up for our portal. In fact, it's a self-service sign up. So you can go ahead and log in. We do an identity verification process and we give you access to your documents. So it doesn't matter where you're coming from.
Yep. We have another question here. Is there a way to incorporate the production company's deal memo with START Plus? Again, I seem to pick out the anonymous ones. Yes, absolutely. START Plus is that application, and that's how it was built. It wasn't only just to facilitate the payroll portion that cast and crew requires, the I-9, the W-4, and what else am I missing? Our START form. But it also incorporates the studio deal memos, the policies and procedures, conflict of interest, NDAs, all of that, which typically gets, you know, put into a large paper packet, can be facilitated and implemented into START Plus.
Yeah, so we have another one. We have many, and as Shelley said, if unfortunately we don't get to all of them, please feel free to reach out to sales@castingcrew.com, and we can absolutely have your answer for you. But we have from Billy Mulligan, can a best boy upload their entire department's TCs digitally? So yes, you can do batch time cards by department. You can enter on behalf of crew. They're still approved by the crew member. But you can enter time on behalf of an entire department.
Yep, I have a question here about I-9s from John Conk. It says, how do you verify I-9 information regarding government issued IDs? That's a really good question. And that's something that has slightly changed during COVID. In the past, it wasn't really recommended to make, obviously not recommended, but not done, is to take you know, photocopies of a government issued ID. With COVID, those rules have been adjusted to help facilitate that. And what our productions are doing and what we're recommending is to utilize Studio for that portion so that you can make those adjustments in the I-9s later as well. But that's a really good question. Thank you, John.
So there's a number of questions about availability of these products in Canada. So some of these products are already available in Canada. The entire suite becomes available in Canada at the end of this calendar year. So we are looking forward to migrating the Canadian shows at the end of the year onto these applications, and some are available in Canada right now. And feel free to reach out to sales and we can talk to you individually about your needs and how to get you started on our products in Canada. I noticed there's a number of questions about that, so please feel free to reach out.
Yes, let's see. We can go and we're taking a look. There's a lot of that. There was a lot of Canada questions. So thank you, Guillaume, for taking that on. Okay, so there's another one. I love an anonymous question. Can you export backup files and folders in Studio? So the answer is that yes, you can go ahead and export those production files, if you will, or production documentation. And Studio then becomes like a broker where you then could move those files into a long-term, archival solution. But you can also utilize Studio in that if you want to upload different documentation and store it there as well. And that's where, when we talked a little bit about being able to search and look for documents, easily across projects, across multiple projects, Studio does facilitate that. Thank you.
And thank you, Paul, for mentioning MyCast and Crew as streamlining the profile process and employee onboarding process. Yes, we absolutely agree that. By the way, his question was, or his question or statement was that this profile, exactly what I've been saying for the last couple of years, to streamline the onboarding system. Yes, absolutely, and more importantly, those employee profiles carry over show to show. So as long as we've paid you. We actually retain employee documents for 7 years, and that access is valid for at least 7 years from inception. So as you go from show to show, if you're a day player, bouncing from show to show, you get to maintain those credentials. You don't necessarily gain access to the individual projects themselves. Those are obviously studio specific, but it does streamline the onboarding process. So I appreciate that comment, Paul.
Yeah. There's one here that is great, just because it's always nice when you have somebody let you know that they love your product. Taylor says, we love PSL Plus, especially the auditing aspect of edits, much cleaner, nicer format. So thank you, Taylor. Appreciate you saying that.
And also, Taylor, thank you for being one of the first people in history to say, I love auditing. That's
well, I mean, listen, auditing is important, Guillaume. Let's not.
I'm agreeing. I was just simply saying that they had the boldness to actually state that publicly.
Yeah, no, exactly. There's another one. Helen Lane is asking, what is the timeline for the rollout of these solutions? Helen, the timeline is now. Especially if your productions are gearing up soon, please call us or email us at Cast and Crew. We can start working with you directly and the team to implement your start paperwork, walk you through the digital time card solution, and how Cast and Crew Studio can help you get that all organized. So please reach out. We're here for you.
So Dwight asks, how are you maintaining security with all this online digital information being exchanged? And Dwight, I can proudly say that we're security vetted on basically a monthly basis at this point, but we've really designed these applications with security and privacy in the foremost. So we have identity verification processes that happen within the MyCast and Crew application to make sure that if you are the person saying who you are, that you're have the right to access that personal information in those documents. In addition, all the applications have MFA, single sign-on, a host of security measures in place that are really focused around maintaining the privacy and the integrity of personal information that we transact in. So it's really been built from the ground up as a secure HR, payroll, and accounting platform.
Thank you, Guillaume. We have another question from Shelley Gillespie. Does a crew member have to register with My Cast and Crew in order to get start? So it's recommended that crew members actually go into My Cast and Crew, especially if you've been paid before from Cast and Crew by Cast and Crew. Please go ahead and log in and start the process of registering. You can do this before starting a production. And it's really great because you can actually just, you know, the crew members can get their documents in there, they can get their address information in there, they can set up their direct deposit, do all of that heavy lifting before you return to work. And then that way, when digital onboarding comes, because, you know, that crew member would actually receive an invitation because they would have to be invited to the project. That portion of creating that profile is already ready. So we are, you know, very much encouraging everyone to sign up in My Cast and Crew if you haven't already, and start putting in your profile ASAP, because production's coming back.
We have a number of different questions in regards to the START paperwork that can be included in START Plus. So just to address all of that, yes, we can map any document, any custom document into START Plus. It has a fully flexible system that can accommodate any additional documents that you might have. We had a question from a union member about a dues statement and document. Absolutely can be incorporated into START Plus. We had a question about studio documents. Any studio documents can then be incorporated and e-signed in START Plus. In addition, another person asked about tax documentation. So actually W-4s, and here's another revolutionary statement for this call. The coolest thing about W-4s is that we actually store those, especially state W-4s, with the employee My Files. So
that's a really good point, Guillaume. I totally geek out on that as well. And how did we not mention that? There's too much to say. We'll do it in the deep dives, but go ahead.
Not only is that included on every onboard, but because there's such a myriad of state W-4s at this point, the employees can actually go on, fill out their W-4s ahead of time, and store them for each additional start they may do throughout the course of the year. So not only will you get an e-signed version of that W-4 and those tax documents, but the crew member gets the benefit of not having to repeatedly sign those either. So a lot of different solutions in START Plus, and we can accommodate not only a huge amount of diversity of paperwork that need to be included within that and documents that need to be included within that packet, but also rules and approval workflows on top of it.
Yeah. We have a quick question. I think Rita Sue wants a quick recap, Guillaume, of you know, which of these products are currently available and which ones are to come. And so I think, you know, Rita, all the products are available currently, with the exception of Reporting Plus, and that is currently in beta. And Guillaume, I think you mentioned that it's was it later this year that we'll be kind of introducing that?
It'll be early next year.
Early next year, great. So so Rita, please reach out. These products are available to you now.
Thank you, everyone. That is the end of our Q&A session. And thanks to Guillaume and Ivana for that insightful look into how we can move toward a digital production office. If you have any further questions regarding the Cast and Crew production suite, we welcome you to contact us directly by emailing sales@castandcrew.com. And please join us next week and in the weeks to come for future webinars in the Digital Production Office series. We will be taking deep dives into the Cast and Crew suite of products and how they can help you get your crew back into production. We look forward to seeing you next week, and until then, stay safe. Thank you, everybody.